All right, all right. Well, first off, I just really want to thank everybody again. Those at home. Um, the reopening plan was developed with a committee of parents, students, teachers, administrators, that initially discussed the remote documents and how to remote them. Then once we understood what we can and can't do, based into committee for the reopening plan and discussing the hybrid model and why it was selected. Through those discussions, the AABB model came out more. There was many opinions about it, but when we looked at the continuation of instruction over 2 days and being able to connect with students, we felt it was very important to have that consistency. The parents on the board also agreed that it would be easier, not ideal, none of this is, that for an employer, for an employee to be able to say to their employer that I can come in on Thursday and Friday rather than every other day was a little more consistent. So those were the big reasons why it was selected. Wednesday, because the district wanted to offer a full remote option to parents, which not a lot of districts are, and some aren't at all, um, they that day is set for remote learning, so that the child or the parents who decide to keep their child on remote learning has an opportunity to connect with the teacher. I'll begin by what I think the first few days of school. We're basically going to have three first school days, and you have the letter that will be going home tomorrow, along with the health questionnaire that students will have to bring in with them. The letter, I think, addresses a lot of the questions that were addressed here, but basically on the Tuesday, September 8th, children will come in and we're designating 3 entrances in the high school. Um, the gymnasium will be for them. Your policy that one parent or they will it's important that you not saying your child so we thought that was the best way to be able to ensure that they're not even coming to the grounds necessarily that they're not home. From there, children will be in those areas, distance, and follow the school. We can properly distance students, and we can properly uh, follow a student's regular schedule. Wednesday, September 9th will be the first school day for the students who have chose the full remote model. Teachers have that day to develop their remote remote plan with those students. And then Thursday will be the first day of school for the cohort two, following the same entrance procedure. Throughout the day, masks will be mandatory. A teacher can, if they feel, offer a mask break. So that's kind of the way we're approaching the masks, face coverings. Neck gaiters and bandanas, as you'll see in the letter, are not appropriate face coverings. A lot of questions surrounding the remote plan. I know what I want it to look like. I know the discussions we've had with teachers. I know what they want it to look like. There were a lot of concerns in the community about live streaming. And Mr. Brosdale listened. When meeting with the teachers, we are giving the teachers the ability to live stream. Right now, we are in the process of putting webcams in every classroom. Unfortunately, with the supply and the delivery of those items, having to have ordered them after July 1, I'm sure you can understand we're not the only district that's looking to do things like this. So we already have 5 classrooms in the high school that are going to at least act like studios. And I'm very optimistic that by the time we open school, half of our classrooms will be equipped with a webcam. I've already gotten a lot of feedback from teachers at the high school that are very, very excited because no one's excited about really what we're doing because we want our kids back. But they're looking forward to be able to live stream, but we're not mandating it, and it's for a lot of reasons that again, privacy for mostly the student, and the ability to help teachers get through this not having done it before. I think you'll see an increase in teachers through our training in using live streaming. Teachers do understand that improvements need to be made on live instruction. I know that kids need to see their teachers. A Google Doc, a Google Sheet cannot serve as the only instructional avenue or material. That is completely understood by the teachers, by the administration, and I, many of you know, even with my own children, it just didn't work. So you're definitely going to see live instruction in terms of teachers uploading videos, whether it is them doing their lesson and then looking at it and uploading it for the students that aren't in person or for the full remote students on those particular days. They will be uploading videos of their lessons. Now, another myth that I think a lot of non-educators don't understand is teachers do not spend, even in the best of days, 39 of the 40 minutes of a lesson in front of a smartboard or talking. A lot of it is guided instruction, 10 to 15 minutes of what we're going to be discussing, and then an activity. If I had to just sum it up, there's a lot of things that go into that. Is it cooperative activity? Is it just a writing activity? And so on and so on. Is it a lab activity? So what you can look for and through my discussions with the teachers is we're purchasing a subscription to Screencastify. That allows teachers to very easily edit those lessons so they can be uploaded to the Google Classroom. So in terms of the remote learning, I hope that helped clarify a little bit of what you should expect when your child is home. We're hoping that after that first week, you're going to see those video lessons that your student can access within the day. Within the day. That's the goal. Will there be a lag from time to time, depending on the teacher and what they want to present to the students that are in person and at home? Sure. But I'm going to tell you that you have my word that I completely understand that in the spring, and we could debate, who did what. We understand that improvements need to be made to that. And while the focus in the spring was really do what you can when you can, That's not the expectation going into this school. It's expected that students, after again transitioning back in the norm of all the safety precautions they have to do, that quickly we need to get to a model where school looks like school as much as possible. So that's just the kind of overview. In terms of after school activities, clubs, which is a big part of a student's high school, not just high school, but really at this level, understanding that we have to build a college resume. We are going to be offering clubs. As I said, a lot of this depends on what we can and can't do. I know that we will be having a National Honor Society induction. We did in the past for seniors in the fall anyway. It's just going to be a few more candidates than we're normally used to in the fall. So student government, National Honor Society, and even some of the performance groups, we're looking at ways, and teachers are trying to work out ways they can do things virtually. So I'm going to be recommending to Mr. Brosdale by the September midway point some clubs to start up for October 1st, and then perhaps revisit once we see how the school year is going to continue to add more and more. I know Mr. Ray is constantly looking at what's happening with athletics. As of this morning, New Jersey passed a reopen plan for sports, and I'm sure Governor Cuomo will follow suit. He usually does kind of do what is happening in the tri-state area, and we're hopeful that he'll have an announcement by the end of the week. That's what we're hearing. So as things get updated, we'll be updating you. In the letter, it really kind of goes down the list. If you get a chance to take a look, I think I've covered most of, again, what people had reached out with their concerns. And I think that's just kind of a general overview. I'll open it up to some questions because this is really about you and your family feeling comfortable about sending your child back. Gotcha. The question was, in case for people at home, about the curriculum being continuous, whether it's 2 days or 4 days, if I'm saying that correctly. The, the expectation is that there's 4 days of continuous instruction. That's why we're really pushing the issue of having those videos uploaded by that school day so that a student can view them. And if they're in cohort one, they don't come back the following Monday and doing what cohort two did. Should be continuous. That's the expectation. Absolutely. Google Classroom has private messaging. Uh, what what should happen is those videos that the teacher produces on Thursday and Friday is what your students should be viewing when they're not in school Thursday and Friday. So they see what happened. And again, a lot of teachers has expressed that they will be live streaming. So you know, the first week is going to be as teachers prepare their digital platforms. They might say, hey, I'm doing a live stream of the video. It'll be videotaped if they can't, but the expectation is that they do a school day and view the videos that the teachers are uploading. Wednesday is also, besides checking in with the full remote, is a day that teachers have in order to produce some of these videos so that the classes can see them, not just for Thursday and Friday and Monday and Tuesday, but generally as they, so they, basically that's why we're setting up like studios for them to be able to even go ahead and then upload as they move along the curriculum. It's completely understandable. That's why, the platform that we used, and I found it to be teachers were using it very well, that there's that interaction, whether it's a private. Teachers also have prep flex periods where they can answer those kinds of questions for students and check in with them. But Obviously, that's a big part that we don't want students feeling like they're not connected to the school when they're not in person. So if there's ever any issues between Wednesday and then the 2 days they're out, there should be connection with those kids that are not in person on that day. Question. That day right now has been designated a non-instructional day for the in-person people because of the full remote option right now. Again, this is a fluid kind of situation, right? So that there may be a teacher that posts on and says, "Hey, it's due," may not be that, but there will be. That's kind of the designated non-instructional day. So, yeah, the question that I just answered was, what will Wednesday look like for the students in the hybrid plan? Yep. Gotcha. Yes, students that have been assigned to an English lab or math lab will be coordinated in a similar fashion through the teacher that's assigned to that section. So, for example, Ms. Bernatsky is assigned to Algebra Lab. She is going to teach that class just as if there was her a regular assignment, regular class. So students will be provided, and when they're in person, they go to the class. We're doing an A, B, not to confuse people. That's why I'm starting to use cohort one, cohort two, because cohort one will be in on Monday and Tuesday. A, B, they'll follow their A day schedule, B day schedule. Okay, sorry if I didn't make that clear. It's in the letter written that way. So that way they will have their lab on one day, and then phys ed, if it's science lab, same thing, English lab, math lab. Yes, okay. For the first day of school. Correct. So that's why like, I'm kind of like that first week is their first day. Now, when the cohort two comes in on Friday, it's a B day, and we'll be making announcements in the school. The students are mostly used to that. Obviously, the freshmen as well. I remember, we had the same model at the middle school. So that's the goal is to understand. That's why I'm starting to use cohort one and cohort two just to not confuse things. Yes, education, physical education. Yep. Yes, okay. The question is physical education, orchestra, instruction, what that might look like. Physical education classes, right now working on through spacing, we have the ability to do that as much as we can. We're going to be outside doing low impact activities, and they're going to be connecting with our social workers a little more, focusing more on the emotional wellness of students as well, not just the physical. We find that that time will be a good opportunity to connect some of our social emotional things that we want to do throughout the year. And our phys ed teachers are going to be working closely with Ms. Mulia and Ms. Candora, our two social workers, to create opportunities for them to do not just a little bit of physical activity, but those things as well. Orchestra, once we get through the first 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing lessons in a similar fashion. Obviously, we have kids here for less hours, so we're going to try to minimize the impact to the academic subjects. But Miss Romeo has met and just had a Zoom meeting with the music teachers that we feel we can properly space and distance under the hybrid model through orchestra, band, and chorus. No, so one of the reasons that a lot of teachers, the question was, do students have a specific login time? We are expecting students to complete the work between 8 and 2 p.m. That's the reason why a lot of teachers have also been doing live streaming. Like Mr. Kulik, child is enrolled in one of his classes, he's already said, I'm going to be expecting that students log in at that time. So that's what I said before in terms of the school day needs to be defined. And what we're hearing from the state is that we're going to be having like you have to turn in an assignment as attendance as well. So those are all things that are going to be a lot more scrutinized by myself and teachers, and obviously we'll have to be checking in on students who aren't doing it. Right. So the question was no issue of an exam. Right now, we're trying to open schools. Okay. About the school day between 8 and 2 and no exams. A lot of questions have come up with our staff meetings because we held similar meetings like this through Zoom with a lot of our staff about testing and grading. Since we only have students for 2 days a week, so we're overwhelmed. We're right now developing a schedule so that we don't try to do that within each department. The other part is we're looking at the possibility of having exams being able to be like locked and turned in through teachers. I have a couple of teachers in the English and Social Studies department right now. Mr. Primo is looking at a few things a couple of subscriptions that we can upload tests that it's kind of like an encrypted, you get a digital signature, things like that. So I don't want to put the question off, but that's the expectation. We want the kids' school day to be like the school day. Am I going to say that a teacher might post an assignment and say, "Hey, you hand it in by 3 o'clock on Friday"? That might happen. But in terms of exams, we're going to try and be very particular about being done during the school day, or obviously when they're in person. Absolutely. I'm going to say yes. That's the expectation. I understand. I totally understand. Yep.
My question is in regards to, you had said that teachers that are not live streaming will be uploading, a
Yes.
video or whatever. But if the kids are supposed to be working from 7:30 to 2:30 and they're doing an upload of a video and they don't have a time frame to do the video, how are our kids not going to be working on the week, doing their homework and everything at night and on the weekend?
So your question is the lag between the teacher teaching and then being able to upload the videos. It's a very good question. It came up in our uh, committee meeting with the teachers, and the idea there was if I teach first period of class algebra, I'm going to take that video if I'm happy with it and put it up right away. There may be a little bit of a lag for that student. And again, that's where getting into the swing of things and having teachers make those videos so they have them ready to go and having the Wednesday as a PD day. I really want to get over the idea that that first week is going to be nothing more than transitional. I don't want people leaving here being like, Tuesday afternoon, there's going to be a project for my son on September 8th to do. Um, the teachers understand that they have to have instructional live videos or live streaming or some type of work for them to do so they don't fall behind to get back to your question about the continuous learning. Okay, so that's really the expectation.
So technically, if you have a first period class who's not live streaming, your kid really doesn't have to be like he shouldn't be
Correct.
waiting around. He could be doing
Correct.
something else, waiting
But
for
the
his first
teacher,
period.
what the expectation might be is the teacher. The question was again. I'm sorry if I'm lagging with that. About what does a student do if a teacher's not live streaming first period? The teacher might say, and the what we're expecting to keep that normal school day is your child has to go into Google Classroom, turn in an attendance assignment, and complete whatever the teacher might have posted.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
that will be now recorded that your child clicked in between that class period, and we're going to support that
Great.
because we want to get back to
Right.
even when a student's home a normal day as much as possible. Classes are 40 minutes. We contemplated extending passing time and things like that. Right now, we're going to try to just be more cognizant of being in the hallways and just treat it like a normal day. The issue became really if we're releasing a portion of the building, they're going to a class that has kids in it, so it just really didn't make sense. So The question was, periods will remain the same, school hours will remain the same. No, we're starting the school year off. Question was how will grading be handled? We're starting the school year off with the same way we left. We believe that number grades are the appropriate way to handle assessment. I'm waiting. The question was, how do I stop students from posting a picture of a mob scene and oh no, we're being on social media. I know. Yeah, yeah. I'm concerned about posting. That's why I went right there. Um, we have designated the main hallway. We have divided it in half, and we're basically creating like a highway, 2 lane highway, so that if you're heading east-west along the main corridor, and similarly in each of the wings. We also are opening up the back stairwells in the 2 wings that we can. The library has one also, but there's really not a lot of traffic there. So they'll be creating like one-way hallways to try and keep the flow of traffic without creating that distancing. When you can't distance, the mask has to be on. So we're really going to enforce the face covering mask rule in the hallways when there's passing time. As I said earlier, the classroom teacher does have the discretion if there's 8 students in a class because with distancing we have some classes with 10 to 12 and then others with 16 and 18. So if they feel like they can spread out and say take a 5 minute mask break, we are allowing. Yeah, this came up yesterday. We even talked about if a teacher has to stay home because their child has to quarantine or whatever. Basically, we will be looking to put substitute in the room and then working with the teacher just like if they were out sick. Um, in terms of sending children home, I know that was a big question about what's the protocol. Basically, if a student comes down or a teacher comes down showing symptoms of fever during the day, we've created an outside area from the nurse's office so they will never even need to be, they'll get screened initially, and then we have an isolation area. A student cannot return if they're sent home without a medical note. We are not allowed to require a COVID test. That's something for the doctor that we are requiring a medical note to return. Similarly for staff. The consequences for not complying with a mask. We're putting it under the you're basically hurting the safety, health, and welfare of the building. So it's progressive discipline. Okay, first time, and we have PPE to provide students basically the same way we would handle insubordination. So I hope we don't have to come to that, but that's the progressive discipline. I really, to sit here and say, because usually what happens is put your mask on. Oh, sorry, sorry. If it becomes something like, oh, I hate this, and that's my experience, 24 years of education, becomes less about the mask. It's like a cell phone. Put your cell phone away. Oh, come on, this is something else. So I can't really tell you attention or because it depends on the situation. But it is in the code of conduct as violating the health, safety, and moral welfare of our building. Yep. No, please, that's why we're here. The question was, what about the sections that are a little bit larger that we can't properly social distance in a 200 square foot classroom? We've set up the wrestling room, which has been clean, sanitized, as a instructional room. We're going to be pulling out desks to spread classrooms out, setting up the wrestling room, the cafeteria, and the library. All will be our larger instructional areas. So if there's a period where we happen to be right at that cusp, and we're still ironing out the class counts between people who are on full remote because we're still getting those requests in, and our numbers are changing. You'll see in the letter, and I know I had gotten a few requests. Unfortunately, at this time, we're not going to be honoring any peer request changes for cohort. We just want to get the school year started, and I totally understand the importance, as I wrote in the letter, about the peer interactions. Just please tell your children to be patient and just let's get back to school. Yes. Right. So anything that's going to be given out is going to be given to your child. Okay. Ms. Romeo is actually working with a lot of the art department, and Mr. Matthews is working with the tech department, so that we kind of create individual packets of supplies for students. So those are the kinds of the ways we're handling that. I did get something about paper. I mean, I did ask if anybody opened their mail in the last 6 months, and did you wear gloves every time you did that? Um, I had a person call me and said, "How can you hand out paper?" Lunches. I met with Miss Lane. We are going to a cashless. It's in the letter. Um, no cash will be accepted. My school bucks is working. It's accepting after September 1st. It will be accepting be able to upload. We are going to have a breakfast and lunch program. I'm going to be setting up a kiosk by the gymnasium rotunda for students to purchase prepackaged breakfast, as well as it'll be offered in the cafeteria for the 11th to 12th graders. Lunches will also be allowed. We're contemplating giving students an opportunity to pre-order. We're looking at that. When they come in the morning, there'll be like a sheet they can check off just to give her an idea of what to prepare. Um, the lunches right now, the numbers look like we can be properly distanced in the cafeteria. Any overflow will be assigned to a classroom, and we're going to be starting with ninth graders going to a classroom and so on and so forth. They will be at student desks. We're not going to be using the gang tables. So in the cafeteria. So we're going to be setting it up with student desks, and I know it's not ideal. They're not sitting, and none of this is ideal. But at least they'll be able to be distanced and sitting at their desk in their lunch. So with the hybrid plan, the same way we are basically cutting the building in half, we are also cutting the whoever rides the bus technically in half. District office is reviewing all of the routes to make sure there's no anomalies in terms of one route being much bigger than something else. And masks, as it says in my letter, is the bus is an extension of the school. Students are mandated to wear masks on the bus. We're creating a second drop-off lane because in anticipation of students getting dropped off. So where last year, if you recall, if you had a student in the upper grades, we're creating it next to it in the student parking lot. There'll be two ways to pull in until we start getting hopefully better at opening and getting more requests for student parking. So every day that your child comes in, so if you're cohort one, you'll need one for Monday and Tuesday. I'm going to be giving out copies to students to bring home on the first day of school. So I'm going to be giving them like, basically week supply so that you have them. It'll also be posted on the website so you can print out if you like at home. Drills? Oh, fire. Oh, we have, yeah, fire drills, emergency drills have to be conducted. We haven't been told that we're exempt from any of those. Um, And with this, safety in mind, we may look at we already have looked at the evacuation drill to the building, to the middle school that we do. I've already talked to Ms. Hine and Mr. Catlin. Hopefully, we'll be able to use the outside just to be able to conduct the drill. Cleaning protocol. So I think I mentioned it earlier. If I didn't, it's probably because I've had hundreds of conversations and answered this question about that many times. Um, Daily, basically, the custodians in the building have been assigned to a wing. So if you're familiar with the high school, it's the 1-200, the 300 library, 5-600, and then our large areas. So out of our five custodians, each one will be going in 2 to 3 times throughout the day, wiping down desks. Now, the guidelines say you can't clean in the presence of students. So it's tricky. Uh, we, I can't tell you that every desk will be wiped down. I'd be lying to you if I did uh, between periods. We do have certain checkpoints that we're going to be keeping a log of cleaning, so we know if there is contact tracing that we have to report back. We know when the room was disinfected. Wednesdays, cleaning will take on throughout the day with our own staff, and the outside maintenance company will be doing a deep clean once all staff leaves at 2:30. So from 2:30, and then again on Saturday for the second cohort. Or Friday night into Saturday. Well, quite frankly, that's why we have that. The question was about seasonal allergies and things like that. That's why we have that screening table outside the nurse. That if a student needs to go to the nurse, they can go. Hey, we have a history on that student. We'll look them up. Say, hey, this student has an allergy. Well, if you don't already have that, what I would do is I would call the nurse and just say, can you please note this in my child's power school so they can see it? So we did the question was about holidays and Monday. We did the math and it comes up really just 2 days short for cohort one. Right now we're kind of okay with that. If we see that things happen and through the first semester we're going in longer, we're going to continue to monitor that and perhaps let you know that they'll be in on a Wednesday instead of today. Right now it's just 2 days. As the IEP services must be delivered. As far as I know, there have been no exemptions due to COVID. So anything that is required to be delivered will be delivered. I can tell you that I felt that the special education department did phenomenal in the spring. And if you want to talk about anything specific, we could do that in the third part. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, right. Right. If the no, I understand. If the IEP says 5 days a week, they're going to be doing that as much as the IEP says. So. Correct. 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 Working with the student, delivering the instruction. Right, Mr. Manager? Does did a great job. Mhm. Well, the question was if we do go back to full in person, that will take the transition back to allow teachers to catch everybody up, make sure they're all on the same page. It speaks to what our expectation is for the hybrid plan anyway. There should be continuity in education. I know it's not ideal. Again, we use that word, but the idea is that the classes should be on the same page if and when we do transition back. I don't think it's going to be you leave here Friday and on Monday we're full in person. It's going to be a phase in where again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say that we start to incorporate the Wednesday where we have another cohort come in for an additional Wednesday and rotate that, something like that. Well, if we're allowed to bring more kids in and the distancing restrictions ease, then yeah, we'll have to look at the schedules and say this is the day they're coming in longer, more, whatever the case may be. Yep. Our Yeah. So the science labs, we're basically creating larger spaces for them to work. We're bringing in folding tables, things so that they can have more spaces. Mr. Matthews is working with basically the science department to make sure that the lab requirements can be done online too, because there's been chatter within his um, science directors association that they're going to be allowing that, not so much of the physical hands-on. But as far as we know right now, the lab requirement is still there. Regents exams are still there. I know last year they exempted students from that. We're waiting to see. Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but how can you expect some districts, and us especially, uh, to have full remote, hybrid, you have all these different nuances, and then expect students, but at least right now. Okay, I want to build in a little time. So there's about 15 minutes before the hour's up. We'll be off to the side here. Ms. Corretto. Yes, you can certainly bring a device if you have one at home. There is a device request form on the internet now, and you can always email me. Um, the technology department picked a really bad time to have this situation because we finally got approval and the board expedited the expenditure from our Smart Schools Bond Act. Unfortunately, it happened at the same summer where we're getting all this new technology for the buildings. I mean, every classroom is getting a brand new tower. Um, and we do have laptops that we are part of the plan was to roll it out to eighth graders coming into ninth grade. The problem is they need to be able to be formatted to our building protocols and filters have to be installed. So all that's happening is just to be able to roll it out to everybody is to be a daunting task right now, given everything we're trying to do to get schools ready. So that is the vision. If you do need technology or if you do need someone, just reach out. There's a form online or you can just email me. We're keeping a record and then we'll someone will contact. All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate all the feedback. It's important that we do this together. As I said when I started. Be safe and can't wait to see hopefully your students, the kids. Thank you.
see who I'm speaking to, or?
Just wait for right there. These are the questions.
Yes, I will. A student gets sick and can't do in-person class. Can they switch to online class? Yes. Yes, they can. Our students who choose remote studying. Yes, if you're choosing to remote yes, you can join sports clubs once those things get going. Desks are going to be cleaned 2 to 3 times during the school day. Is that it? Thank you.
Did you get it? Was it good?
Yeah.
You heard? Like that one. I'm gonna go on camera quick. So, Alright guys, that's gonna end the stream for today. There'll be another one at 1 o'clock.